All right, before we get into the video, all I ask is you guys please consider sticking around, listening to what I have to say, listen to what I am talking about, because I've never really asked that before. And if you enjoy what I'm talking about, if you enjoy the topic of today's video, please consider liking and subscribing and sticking around to the channel. But let's get into the purpose of today's video, and that is all the coaches that have been fired after week 18 and heading into the offseason. But let's get into the main reason why I'm making this video, because it's the most frustrating thing that I saw, and it's something no one saw coming, and that was Brian Flores being fired by the Miami Dolphins. This literally has to be the worst firing of any coach during this coaching carousel being fired that had been fired. I genuinely think this is one of Stephen Ross of the Dolphins has to be the dumbest owner in the NFL, bar none. He has to be so dumb. And I was looking at the Dolphins Pro Football Reference page earlier today, and they have been through quarterback and they've been through head coach, and it's just a never-ending cycle with them. It is never ending. At some point, it's not the people that are in the building. It's not the GM, even though I think Chris Grier absolutely stinks. It's not the GM most of the time, and it's definitely not Brian Flores, the head coach. It all starts with the higher-ups, because if I looked at this correctly, in the past 20 years, there have been at least 10 different people, either the head coach or the interim coach. That's a Dolphins problem, not a Brian Flores problem, because if you look at Brian Flores, last year led the Dolphins to a 10-win season, something nobody expected coming off of a terrible season the year before, where arguably nobody expected anything from that Dolphins team either. I'm pretty sure that was the year where everybody was like they're tanking for Tua, and everybody thought they were going to go 0-16, and they managed 5 wins, nothing impressive, but still got a team that had 0 expectations to 5 wins, and then went from 5 wins to 10 wins. And that season, I could argue both of these seasons that Brian Flores has been there, it's been Chris Grier who has absolutely screwed over this team, and apparently Chris Grier has been there for 20 years. That's what's insane to me. Chris Grier is the one that drafted Tua. I'm not blaming Tua. I like Tua, but at the same time, why are we blaming Brian Flores for the failures of this team when Chris Grier is the one that's giving Brian Flores this talent to work with? I don't blame him. And he drafted that offensive line, is the one that signed the worst offensive line in football, and it's not helping Tua whatsoever. So to blame Tua and to blame Brian Flores, I don't think it's fair. Chris Grier put together the biggest joke of an offensive line in the NFL this season. Tua is getting killed every single play because of the offensive line that was built. And you can only ask Brian Flores to do so much. And I know the numbers. He's a defensive coach. They haven't been what we expected from them. But Brian Flores has done great things, especially with the team that has, that I think has outperformed its record. 10-6 last year, 9-8 this year. I know they lost 7 in a row after defeating the Patriots week 1, but then they won 7 games in a row, and they were able to finish with a winning record. If you ask me, I think Brian Flores was trying to build something there in Miami. I thought they were an offensive line, and I know that's a huge piece, and that's 5 key pieces. But I think Miami was literally an offensive line away. From then, we can be like, okay, we can truly see what the problem is. Tua is getting absolutely no help from his offensive line, and he's getting rushed every single play. It just doesn't make any sense to me how they're blaming Brian Flores. The Miami Dolphins, great defense. The Dolphins, great receiving core, great tight end, great running backs. They have Tua, who hasn't lived up to the expectations. One, he's been injured, and I know some people hate injuries, and I think, once somebody gets injured, they automatically think he's a bust. But there's also another thing where last year and this year, the fact that they just wouldn't start Tua, because they messed him up, because they used Ryan Fitzpatrick last year. They kept pulling Tua from the games, killing any momentum that he could have built to become a good NFL quarterback. They kept ruining any of his chances to learn. And that I think that completely ruined his development. This year, they said he was too injured to play, but he was still going to be the backup quarterback. And then he comes in against the Baltimore Ravens and has an excellent second half, plays really well in that. And I'm just thinking, like, Tua played great in the second half. And I know at the same time the Ravens were preparing for Brissett in that game, but come on, Tua was healthy enough to have a great second half. Why not start him and let his development continue? And then, maybe after this year we could start questioning Tua, but they just never gave Tua a chance. And this goes all the way back to Chris Grier and who he's hiring. I think Chris Grier is an absolute failure of a GM. The fact that he's been there that long is just absolutely insane to me. I feel like Stephen Ross has something for him all the time. I don't know. Like, the fact that Chris Grier is still there is insane. Stephen Ross is the dumbest owner in the NFL right now. And I personally think my instant reaction was this was dumb. And then second, as I was listening more and more, I think this is going to set the Miami Dolphins back more than they already were, because they keep saying how they want to be an excellent franchise. Brian Flores was building to something, and you just snatched it from underneath him. Literally, I know they lost 7 games in a row, but they rallied 7 in a row, and then they were able to beat the Patriots twice this year. Brian Flores is the only guy that seems to have the Patriots number, and you took that away from him. So guess what? Any chance that you wanted in the division to defeat a divisional opponent like the Patriots, you took that away from yourself. You took it away because you got rid of Brian Flores, the one guy that seemed to always be competitive against the Patriots. And I seen person after person today saying that if you fire a head coach and he instantly becomes the number 1 head coach on the market, maybe it's not the head coach and maybe it's the organization who fired him. I genuinely think that Brian Flores is going to be the best hire that any team's going to get this season. And I'm making a bold prediction now. Whatever team picks up Brian Flores, they're making the playoffs. They are making the playoffs. Whether he's the head coach or the defensive coordinator, they are making the playoffs, which with every team gets Brian Flores. And I like Tua. I love the talent that the Miami Dolphins have. But just for the sake of Stephen Ross and Chris Grier, I hope the Miami Dolphins go completely backwards. I really do. They took away a great head coaching job from a guy who the organization basically said he wasn't doing a good job. Not doing a good job, my ass. That dude went from the Adam Gase debacle, got the team 5 wins when nobody expected them to win a single game, to winning 10 games when no one expected it, to still having the worst offensive line in football, still managing to win 7 games in a row and finish with a winning record. Now, if they fired him after next year, if he, win another 9-8 and miss the playoffs, fine, I could get behind that. But they have done nothing to help Brian Flores succeed in Miami. I don't believe he has. I think Brian Flores is a great coach. Wherever he lands, they're going to be lucky to have him. And the Miami Dolphins are just screwing up an organization that I thought was trending in the right direction. And they proved me wrong just by firing the best head coach on the market right now. But that was the video that I wanted to make discussing the NFL firings. Give me your thoughts down below of what you think of these NFL firings, and I'll see you in the next one.